If you want to switch sides, I don't think we'll stop
it's cool.
you.
It's whatever. Landon insulted me. It's fine. All right.
You would stop that.
I'm recording. I'm just going to talk at this level. I'm still animated, but it's lower.
Your mouth can be big and loud, but you want your sound to be less.
Tiny, tiny little.
Because I'm really bad at remembering things.
And really bad at being quiet.
Yeah, I'm really bad at being quiet.
Yeah.
I'm going to just move because my leg kept like on it.
Wicked. We got our lights on. We got a camera. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the very, 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 very first Thunderfeather podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even know what we're doing.
For better or for worse, we're here.
We don't know what we're doing yet with it, but we're specifically filming this episode to find out what it is we are going to be doing.
Where this is going to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just felt like we needed to. Because you guys want to know about the stuff Thunderfeather's doing, and we want to know about the stuff that we're doing.
And if we don't talk about it, then we're never going to know.
It's true. So you had a question to start us off. He started the question before we rolled the camera. We're like, we may as well just...
The question was, do we have a show flow of some kind?
Or an agenda of sorts?
Nope.
I'm not really even sure I know what the term show flow means.
Me neither. I don't know if anybody's ever said it before.
It felt right. I think I've heard Hank Green say show flow.
I feel like I can envision pictures on a
legit.
wall.
But
That's
he
a storyboard.
probably made it up.
Right, but isn't that what a show flow is? Is a storyboard?
It
only
sounds
movies?
Or is a storyboard a flow show?
A flow show or a show flow?
A flow show. That's the commercials with Flow, right?
Yeah. That's the spin-off they were going to do with Flow.
Progressive,
They
become our sponsor.
weren't, but they should.
Yep.
Great.
So I think the answer is no.
Okay.
Basically what we came to.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we were going to potentially talk about today talking about, including what we could do with the podcast in the future. Specifically, we've thrown ideas around about what these episodes could become, bringing people on, behind the scenes stuff, obviously, of the movies we make, and also just kind of introducing people to the organization and the different things we do that you maybe don't know about. So,
Right.
We've talked before this about a lot of the ideas, but we kind of just wanted to also talk about them here.
Yeah. And so some of the things that we were talking about, trying to dive into at some point, we had discussed the idea of doing something where we talk about being neurodivergent creators and creatives and what that process is like, things that do become a challenge for us because of the neurodiversity that we have, things that help us through, why even being a creator helps us in life as neurodivergent people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
The way that feels like something that feeds your soul a little bit, and that seems pretty common for a lot of people with a variety of neurodivergence.
It's therapy. It's therapeutic
totally.
for sure. Yeah.
And we were talking about as well that we both have ADHD, and Nate does not have ADHD. And
we
were
know
thinking that, but we were thinking that actually would be a great combo too. That we'd be able to discuss it from our perspective. You could talk about things from your perspective. We could compare, how things work for us.
Because one of the things that's really interesting is there's so often when people talk about something that's neurodivergent, I'm like, wait, but that's still me. Like,
Totally.
Right.
And a lot of times the difference isn't in if you do the thing or not, it's in the frequency or the effect that thing affects your life.
Or like the magnitude.
Totally.
Like how severely it happens.
I talk to a lot of people about that fact that it's like, okay, everybody loses their keys. When I say I lose my keys, I mean I do it every single day. Not like, I lose my keys all the time. It's like, no, it's a curse. I'm cursed to just constantly be doing it at much higher rates than other people. So
that's an example I actually often use with talking about that, and how for me, even though I knew I had ADHD, I was diagnosed when I was pretty young, and it kind of like sunk into the back of my mind, and I forgot, and it became invisible to me because of stuff like that, because I would hear other people say, oh, I lose my keys all the time. And I'm like, oh, me too. I don't realize they mean like once a month or, every couple of months. And they're like, for them, it feels like all the time. No. And I'm like, yeah, me too, because it's like every day or two. But because you don't get into those details, a lot of neurodivergent stuff can be not only invisible to everybody else because it's because it's a mental thing, an emotional thing, but also to yourself.
Yeah.
You don't realize
Mm-hmm.
the filters that these are passing through and coming out differently, just with different meanings that different people have about them.
And losing your keys is an interesting one because I would never know where my keys were if I didn't always put them in the exact same spot every day.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think I've lost them for years because I can't. They're either in my pocket or in their resting spot for the night.
And I also have that resting spot. I have had 20 of those resting spots over the years.
I literally have to put stuff like in my shoes or like on like underneath my car keys so I don't forget other things when I'm leaving. And it'll be stuff like that. I'm like, I have to remember this, have to remember that. I just like 2 days ago had to take some stuff that I was trying to remember when I left. And I was like, how am I going to remember? I'm going to walk right past this. And I was like, I'm putting my keys there. And it was out in the open. So that was nice. Like if it was stuff I need to remember that's like in my garage, I'm like, set it here. I would never leave. I would be like, sorry, I'm stuck now. But yeah, stuff like that. And it actually, I feel like that brings up a good point too, that a lot of management techniques for some of the things that are challenges for neurodivergent people, a lot of management techniques that neurotypical people have also work for neurodivergent people and the other way around.
Yes.
Stuff that helps with ADHD helps everybody a lot of the
absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
And it just can be even more crucial for day-to-day functioning for people with ADHD or people who, make accommodations for autism or for all kinds of neurodivergence.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff works for everybody too. Which is
It's
awesome.
like exercise is healthy for everybody,
Just
but
good.
there are some people that have conditions that really, really need to do it
Right.
and
Right.
stuff like that. I don't know if that was the best example, but
No, but it's a thing, right? Everybody should exercise. I have a family history where if you don't live past 60.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? It's how
Totally.
it's good for everybody. Some people it's critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect way to do it. Is these are good for everybody. For some people, they kind of can't function or survive without
Exactly.
them.
Yeah.
And another thing that will happen is people will say, "Oh no, I don't have ADHD because I never lose my keys because I have this elaborate system that I've devised over the last 10 years where I have 18 checks and balances I go through every single morning." And it's like, I wonder why you developed that. I wonder why you did that thing. It is occurring to me that we talked a lot about like what we're going to do in the future, and we should probably tell people who we are.
I was thinking the same thing. This is a good time to introduce ourselves.
Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Levi. You've probably seen my face on video, so I probably don't have to introduce myself, but I'm executive director of Thunderfeather and do a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff and write and direct mostly in our projects. That's like my role is writing and directing.
Yeah. So I'm Nate Brown. I have the main thing that I really love to do is storytelling and figuring out better ways to tell stories. And so in our group, that's a lot of what I bring to the table. I study storytelling relentlessly and then always come with an idea of, you know what? If we're going to make it better, we should do this. I actually have one right here that I'm about to talk about. So
I can see it.
Stay tuned.
He started telling us about
He
this.
did, and we said,
wait.
Let's record.
It sounds too cool and too interesting. Like
totally.
we want to do it on camera. So yeah. I'm Landon. You may not have seen my face. You may have heard my voice, or you may have seen my face.
Probably just covered in huge eyebrows.
Yeah,
or
some big
a
eyebrows.
beard, or face paint of some sort.
Yeah. So I help produce some of the things. Help with I don't know what's my
I guess it depends. Like you started out as an actor.
yeah.
And we've been friends for
We've been friends for a real long
decades,
time.
pretty much all of us. But in the context of, I guess, Thunderfeather for this channel,
Right.
We've worked together in the nonprofit sphere for a long time,
Right.
in different roles. But started as an actor, became a producer, and kind of do a lot of different roles.
kind of just
I
a
guess.
lot of
Done a
stuff,
lot of
producer
art
and
stuff.
etc.
Audio tech for this specific shoot, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you'll learn much more as we remember more things about ourselves.
Maybe
and
against
talk
your
about
will.
Yes. Almost assuredly.
Cool.
That's great.
So I guess, do we want to talk about have sort of a brainstorm sesh where we talk about just not super in detail, but just different directions that we could go with this podcast? Because we want to be making, if we can post one of these a week, that's kind of what we're looking for. We'll see if we have to adjust that goal, but we want to start here and then just use it as kind of a blasting off pad. What is that called? Launch pad. Launch pad for everything that we're going to do. So kind of what could this podcast become, and then what other things could we do once we have gained a following, and how we could help people connect with Thunderfeather and even the nonprofit behind it, DPAC, which it is a nurture group of, any of that stuff. So that's, do you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Do we all want to talk about that? I mean,
I think we should all talk about it.
A good place to start.
With it being our first podcast and talking about how I'm doing audio for this, you can talk a little louder.
Oh, okay, good.
We were worried about that.
We were worried about it because
and you peaked just now.
Just peaked. Okay,
but somewhere sweet spot in there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
So anyway, let's talk about it.
Well, for sure, we're going to be kind of getting together, probably also when we can, with other people in the organization, people behind the camera and that have been in front of the camera, some of our actors when they're available, to ask them about their experiences and even just what it's like to be an actor or a creative neurodivergent individual. All of that stuff we want to talk about. But, for right now, it's us three, and we might be kind of the core group. When it comes to the podcast, we're going to be trying to get together to continue to do this. So there's probably a lot of things that we could just do, talking about how the shoots have gone in the past, telling behind-the-scenes stories, talking about our own personal stories as creatives.
And maybe we had a good conversation yesterday. So when we were talking about
on
it,
the phone,
about just some of this. So maybe we can hit a couple of those bullet points, and we can talk. I know you've had some ideas of some stuff. We could just kind of hit a couple of those things. One of the things we talked about that we thought would be really cool would be as kind of mixed in with all the stuff that we're doing, also potentially collaborating with some other neurodivergent creators or influencers or doctors or just people, basically just having some interviews to touch on some of the general neurodivergent side of stuff. Because, I mean, maybe if people, just in case, I don't know who all is going to be listening to this, maybe you could just explain real quick Thunderfeather's kind of overarching deal, in case you don't know.
Yeah, if you might not be coming here from our TikTok, or you might not know.
If you're not, you should check it out.
It's just at Thunderfeather on TikTok, or at Thunderfeather Nonprofit on Instagram, or thunderfeather.org is our website. And it was founded in 2021. We've been making the movies for a long time. We became an official nonprofit 2 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And we had been working together in the nonprofit sphere before that, and just creatively. But Thunderfeather is specifically, really its core kind of mission is discovering potential through art's creativity in film. So that's kind of a large mission, right? A big umbrella. But the kind of heart of that is to try to find the stories and the storytellers that often don't get to tell their stories. And that usually, what we've specialized in is in the neurodivergent sphere. And then we've specialized even down a little more tighter on autistic individuals. Our films have featured autistic actors very heavily, but really any neurodivergent creator or storyteller or stories, that's kind of what we focus on telling. And, neurodiversity is our kind of focus right now, but just sort of any story that wouldn't get to be told anywhere else, maybe in Hollywood or in any other studio, we want to give people the chance to do so. And it started with autistic individuals when I noticed that the way that they made movies and the way that they kind of created the atmosphere on a traditional movie set. I came from being an actor on a whole bunch of sets, from independent things all the way up to big Hollywood stuff. And I realized that they were disorganized, and you didn't feel very important if you were just an actor or an extra. And I wanted to change that. I wanted everybody on set to feel incredibly important and included and valued. And I wanted to create a set that was organized in such a way that nobody was overstimulated, nobody was cast aside or marginalized, and everybody felt included. And I realized, that there were so many autistic individuals out there, and neurodivergent individuals as well, that couldn't create because these communities weren't they were made by neurotypical individuals for a neurotypical world, and they weren't specifically created for them. So that's what we wanted to do. I don't know if that was too lengthy or whatever, but that's what Thunderfeather does. And we've actually done 10 productions so far. We just finished our 10th production, so we have years of experience doing what we do, and we're always constantly trying to get better at it. But we've got pretty good so far, according to our actors. They that's what they say. But we only want to just continue to get better and continue to offer people that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that'll be stuff too that as we continue to go, you'll see what the pieces of it are. You'll see how it actually works in that way. You know,
Sure.
Well, and a big part of it is we're discovering as we
Yes.
go, right?
Discovering
There's
potential.
as much as I would like to go buy some books and research how we do this, it just doesn't exist.
We're writing those books.
Yeah.
Right.
Those manuals.
We could ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That guy might have some thoughts though.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's a good guy. He and I go way back. He's like 6 months.
Yeah. Wow. That's.
No, but for real, I call them
far from
Jeepers.
him.
You
I
call them
Jeeps.
Jeeps.
Yeah.
So use them all the time as much as you can, because a lot of the busy work that is hard to do when you're neurodivergent can be outsourced to robots now.
Yeah. I think we will inevitably at some point have at least one full episode about it, and then I'm sure it's going to come up all the time.
Totally.
Because I know for sure we at least use it daily for many different things, and I know you
And
use
that's
it
one of
a
my
decent amount,
specialties
too.
at work.
At work, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what you do for
professionally.
work. Yeah, exactly. So
Totally.
So that'll come up a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing. The thing I love about generative AI in general is, for all the panic and whatever that is going around where people fear that it may take the place of humankind in some way.
Yeah, for sure.
I have this recurring vision of a future where it's like an extension of ourselves.
Yeah.
Where it's no longer, it's kind of like when the internet was first coming together. You went from, well, I guess that's something that maybe we could go to the library and look up in a week, but we're never going to do it.
Sure.
Right? To, well, let's look it up on my phone right now. Right? What I'm seeing is a lot of what the AI can do is take us from, well, I think there's something, why don't we break and go figure this out, to, oh yeah, my AI just reminded me that we had this conversation last week and we sourced this item, and that is totally relevant to where we are right now.
Yeah.
And that didn't remove the human from it. It actually empowered us to be more human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great way to put that.
Yeah.
And I agree. I feel like I totally see it heading that direction. I actually already kind of see when people talk about even art and things like that is based in an AI script or in, whatever, and people are like, well, it's not human because there's no human that made it. And in my mind, I mean, obviously I get where they're coming from, but I also kind of feel like it does feel like there's no human that made it, because in a way, all humans made it.
Sure, collaboratively.
It's kind of a collective representation of humanity, because it's trained on us.
Yeah,
it's trained on all of us, and it's kind of cool that I feel like that, thinking about looping that back around to what you were saying, that it could help us to, how did you put it?
Be more human.
Be more human. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And there's all this talk about it, like the legal issues that are coming up and everything, and obviously, like, we're probably not going to go super into depth with that, but I definitely, I think that, like, it is a tool, just like a paintbrush is a tool, and that paintbrush can be used to make your own original art, or you could pirate or make a counterfeit art with it, which would be bad, and people can use AI to steal things and to potentially abuse certain things. I think that's totally legitimate that some people can do that, and that's
As
why
you
I
say,
think
any tool can become
any
a
tool
tool
can be used for bad.
evil or good.
Evil or good, yeah. So I think
feel
that
like-
it is just a tool.
Yeah, and I feel like that would probably be will be where we go with it, and when we touch on that, it will be as how are we utilizing this as a tool?
And as
Like,
creators too. We
Yes,
are artists.
as
that are doing it.
creators,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right, with
And-
the understanding that everything we're creating kind of goes into the tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I like the thought that with this podcast, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's like that fits into our lives as creators, as creatives, that is also just other little pieces and how they affect that. Does that make sense? It's like
Totally, yeah.
it'll all be always tied around tied to that core of what we're doing in Thunderfeather and as creators. But there's so many things that go into that.
Yeah.
Because if you're a creator, you have a whole life that affects your creation, and it's like, we're going to talk about all of that, all those different pieces. So I like that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, it is a very creative, storytelling, humanistic based podcast, because that's what we do as individuals.
And that's what we care
as
about.
friends. Yeah, that's what we're
exactly.
centered on. And we really, I think all of us believe in just a really bright future for creatives and for humans
Just kidding.
in general. And I was going to make a joke, but I decided not to make a joke.
Yeah,
Because you don't know us well enough.
So
You would think I was just being mean to him. I was going to say, like, you can only see the brightness if you're tall enough.
yeah, and then he made the joke. So now he made the joke.
I'm just kidding. Okay, I would never make fun
They don't
of.
even know. They don't even know.
I know.
I'm short, man.
He's not even short.
In fact, right now, I probably look the tallest.
That was my first lie on air.
And the smallest. Oh, what did you just say?
And the smallest. Tallest and smallest.
You look
Tallest and
tallest right now, but if we do this,
We look huge. Wow. That is perspective. We'll talk about
that
yeah.
at some
in the
point,
future.
I'm sure.
Actually, I took a class in college that was a philosophy class, and it was called Intro to the Philosophy of Art. But it was actually just a total philosophy and film. They were like transitioning it to a new class, and so it was the philosophy credit. And the professor that taught the class actually wrote the textbook that we were using, and it was taking philosophical contexts or philosophical concepts and relating them to a specific aspect of film, and actually a specific philosopher and relating it to an aspect. And it was a really, really great class too. So I like, there's going to be a lot of things probably, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's going to be tons of crossover on this channel.
right?
That's a very just creative thing, and definitely a neurodivergent thing is like taking things like AI and things like philosophy and history and storytelling and art and just everything and finding out where they fit and how they fit to each other. I feel like that's going to be a big thing in the podcast as well.
It's kind of just brains, art, and life.
Yeah.
Brains. Brarts.
Not
farts.
Not life arts.
Life
brains.
arts.
Life's farts.
Bri flarts.
It's not getting better.
No.
Somehow art
This
needs
is
to be
Levi.
before life.
Come to another episode of Bryflarts.
Yeah.
Bryflarts season 4.
I like Bryflarts.
Bryflarts.
That could be a shirt.
Bryflarts.
Life
Bryflarts.
Please, if we've named the podcast Bryflarts, give us bad reviews.
Or just flarts for short. Flarts. Welcome to Flarts.